If you've been following along with this 20-episode deep dive into the 4 signals of self-competition, you now know 2 signals, intensity and volume. And if you need to catch up, we started back in episode 310. Intensity, the first signal, is choosing harder. Volume, the second signal, is staying longer. Together, they form the foundation of any training practice. You increase the demand, you accumulate the work, the body adapts. But there's a third variable that most people never learn to see. This one is about the compression of work within a span of time. This is density, the signal that turns work into rhythm and rhythm into capacity. Today we begin the density deep dive with a definition. What density is in physical training, why it matters, and possible misunderstandings. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Consistency, from Fitness to Flourishing. First, let's look at what density is in training. Density is the amount of work performed in a given unit of time. The relationship between the work and the clock, where intensity asks how hard and volume asks how much, density asks how close together. In practical terms, density is measured by the ratio of work to rest. If you perform 3 sets of squats with 3 minutes of rest between each set, your session might take 15 minutes. If you perform the same 3 sets with 2 minutes of rest, the session takes 12 minutes. The same work, the same weight, the same reps, less time. That reduction is density. The work did not change. The recovery between efforts did. And the body registers the difference immediately. Density is the signal of efficiency. This isn't efficiency in the corporate sense, doing more with less. This is efficiency in the biological sense, recovering faster, sustaining output, becoming a system that returns to readiness more quickly than it used to. Now let's look at what density isn't. Density is not rushing. Performing the same work with less rest and worse technique is not density. That's sloppiness. The signal only counts if the quality of the work is preserved. 3 sets of squats performed quickly, but with compromised depth, unstable bracing, and partial range of motion is not a display of density. It's a display of someone who prioritized the clock over the standard of excellent technique. Density is not a replacement for intensity or volume. You cannot compress trivial work and expect the compression to produce adaptation. Density amplifies what is already present. If the work itself does not demand enough to signal change, doing it faster changes nothing. Density is a multiplier. Multiply 0 and you get 0. And density is not without its limit. There is a floor. You cannot compress rest periods to 0 and expect the same output. The body requires recovery between efforts. Density is not the elimination of recovery. It's the progressive reduction of recovery within the limits of what the system can sustain. Intensity tells the body, this is different, pay attention, adapt. Volume tells the body, this is not going away, build accordingly. Density tells the body something else. You do not get as long to recover. Get better at recovering. The signal is distinct. It's not about producing more force. It's about returning to the capacity to produce the same force more quickly. This is a specific adaptation and it requires a specific stimulus. In physiological terms, density training improves work capacity, the ability to do the same work in less time without the quality of the work degrading. This is not the same as strength, which is the ability to produce force. It is not the same as endurance, which is the ability to sustain submaximal effort. Work capacity is the ability to repeat meaningful efforts with incomplete recovery and to do it again and again without the output degrading. This is why density is the signal that turns work into rhythm. When you compress the rest periods, the session begins to feel different. Not harder in the way intensity is harder, more continuous. The breaks between efforts shrink until the session becomes less a series of discrete events and more a single, sustained demand with brief pauses. Intensity is the spark. Volume is the fire that keeps burning. Density is the fire that burns hotter because the fuel is packed closer together. Density takes several forms in the gym. The simplest is shorter rest periods. If you currently rest 3 minutes between sets, resting 2 minutes and 30 seconds increases density. The work is identical. The demand on the recovery systems is higher. Here are some examples. Supersets. Pairing 2 exercises and performing them back to back with no rest between them. A set of bench press immediately followed by a set of bent over row. Then rest. Then repeat. The total session time shrinks. The work performed in that time increases. The rest periods between exercises disappear entirely. Density rises without any single set becoming harder. Circuits. 3 or more exercises performed in sequence with minimal rest between movements. A circuit of push-ups, rows, squats, and planks, repeated 3 times with 90 seconds of rest between rounds. The session becomes continuous effort with structured breaks. The cardiovascular demand increases. The muscular demand remains the same. Density is the variable that changed. EMOM, every minute on the minute. A timer is set. At the start of each minute, you perform a prescribed amount of work. Whatever time remains in the minute is your rest. As fatigue accumulates, the work takes longer, and the rest time shrinks. The work demand remains constant. The recovery becomes the variable. This is density in its purest form. The clock enforces the compression. Same session, more work. The inverse of compressing rest is adding work to the same time block. If your session is 60 minutes and you currently complete 15 working sets, completing 18 working sets in the same 60 minutes increases density. You did not add time, you added output. The relationship between work and clock shifted. The common thread here, density is time aware. Intensity and volume can be discussed without reference to the clock. Density depends on the clock. The clock is the variable density manipulates, and the body's response to that manipulation is a specific kind of adaptation that neither intensity nor volume produces on its own. The most common misunderstanding of density is that it is just a harder version of the same workout. This is false. Density changes the nature of the demand. Squats with 3 minutes of rest between sets is a strength stimulus. The same workout with 60 seconds of rest is a work capacity stimulus. The legs perform the same movement. The system receiving the signal is different. The second misunderstanding is that density training is for specific types of athletes, like CrossFitters, for example. People who care about conditioning, not people who care about strength or aesthetics. This is also false. Work capacity is not a niche adaptation. It's the foundation that allows every other adaptation to be expressed. The person who can recover faster between sets can accumulate more quality volume. The person who can sustain output across a session can train with higher intensity without the session degrading into survival. Density does not replace intensity or volume. It supports them. The third misunderstanding is the most relevant to self-competition. Many people treat density as a training variable, manipulate rest periods, track the clock, adjust the ratio, and miss what it signals about the person doing the work. Intensity signals willingness to face difficulty. Volume signals willingness to stay. Density signals something else. Willingness to return. Anyone can perform a hard set and then rest until they feel ready. The rest is comfortable. The rest is deserved. But returning to the work before comfort has fully arrived, that is not a test of strength or endurance. It tests something else, and it's subtle. Density tests your relationship with incompleteness. The rest period that density removes is not the rest you need to survive. It's the rest you want to feel fully prepared. The difference between those two things, what you need and what you want, is where density lives. Most people rest until they feel ready. The person who practices density rests until they are capable. The distinction is invisible to anyone watching. The internal experience is unmistakable. One is comfort seeking. The other is signal sending. This is why density is the signal that turns work into rhythm. Rhythm is not produced by isolated efforts separated by long pauses. Rhythm is produced by efforts that are close enough together to feel continuous. The person who can sustain rhythm under demand is signaling something about their relationship with discomfort. They are not waiting for it to pass. They are learning to operate inside it. Knowing what density is does not tell you how to apply it without turning every session into a panic attack or a disheartening grind. The mistake most people make is compressing everything at once, slashing rest periods, adding supersets, running circuits, and wondering why the quality of their work collapses. In the next episode, we look at how to apply density intelligently in training. You don't compress everything. You tighten one variable at a time. This requires the discipline to stop compressing before the rhythm becomes noise. Until then, look to the clock during your next session, not to change anything, just to see what's there. How long is the total session? How long are your rest periods? What is the ratio of work to recovery? You cannot tighten a window you have never measured. To exercise consistency and become the person who uses these signals to train follow-through, join the ACT Score Challenge. That's it for today. Catch you next time.